But we're going to start out in San Francisco, where Coach K and Duke have advanced to the Elite Eight. They're one win away from Coach K's first Final Four since 2015. Jeff, I'm going to you first on this one. What's your takeaway here? Duke, they took a punch in the mouth, they came back, and they won.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're a young team, predominantly freshmen and sophomores. You just beat one of the toughest teams in the country, and a team that, again, elite defensively, and you did it, to me, kind of by committee. Everybody produced. Jeremy Roach was terrific, and he's been the guy that I know I've questioned probably the most at that point guard spot. But when it mattered, he kind of showed his poise, making big shots, making good decisions down the stretch. And Coach K is now one win away from a Final Four, and in his final year. That would be one hell of a story. Now, not one easy win away either.
Yeah, they draw Arkansas in the Elite Eight, who knocked off Gonzaga. We'll get to that game here in just a little bit. Mike, let me ask you this. The play of Jeremy Roach, we talk about point guard play on the show, probably too much, to the point that we need a buzzer or some kind of counter, something on here to keep track of how many times we say it. That's been our question with Duke all season long, and he was terrific down the stretch.
You can't talk about point guard play too much. In fact, I would argue that may have been the demise of Texas Tech tonight. Texas Tech didn't get great point guard play. They didn't get somebody to kind of get them in offense and get them great shots. O'Banner made some huge shots. He didn't get a whole lot of opportunities because they have guys kind of masking as point guards who are really just natural wings. But no question, Jeremy Roach was sensational. Probably as good a game as he's played all year at the right time. But you can't ignore what Paolo Banchero and Mark Williams did in terms of their presence. So kudos to, we talk about obviously being old, and Texas Tech is what the epitome of college basketball is right now. But a bunch of young dudes stepped up and helped Coach K get to the Elite Eight, and that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, Frank, let me ask you this. You've coached toughness. I think you coach toughness better than anybody else in the country. That's kind of what Texas Tech is known for. And we questioned that. Jeff and I have questioned that about this Duke team throughout the season. How were you impressed with what you saw out of Duke tonight, being able to handle that? Because that's not something that I think that we expected to see.
No, I'm not. I mean, here's the thing: when you play a team that's known to play with a certain level of toughness, the opposition watches film, and the players say, I got to get ready for this one because these guys are coming at me. And, and they see it. And what happens with a team like Duke is their individual players. We tend to forget that we're talking about Jeremy Roach, McDonald All-American, Banchero, McDonald All-American, Wendell Moore, McDonald just keep going. And the talent level individually is ridiculous. And when they're getting ready to play, to go to a final Elite Eight, and they know they're playing a team that they watch film, players pay attention, and they sit there and they're watching and say, I got to make sure I show up because these dudes going to knock my head off if I ain't ready to go, and the whole world's going to be watching. They bring it for that day. The thing with Duke's team is when they play somebody that maybe doesn't bring that toughness, do they bring it on their own to match that talent? And that's been the question mark all year, I think, from the times I've watched Duke play.
Yeah, it's the talent level is there. And I think that you can make the argument, Jeff, when Jeremy Roach is playing the way that he played tonight, this Duke team, I think, is probably they're clearly the most talented, but I think you could say that they're the best team left in this tournament.
Well, yeah. I mean, like Gonzaga just got knocked off. Arizona's on the ropes right now. Kentucky's gone. I got Kansas here in Chicago. I've said I think this Kansas team can win the whole damn thing. I really do. I mean, again, Remy Martin looks different. And I talked to him a little bit last night. He said he feels the best he has since he got to Kansas, that he was hurt when he got there. And he's kind of tried to play through it. And finally, Bill Self had to tell him, like, we're going to shut you down because you're not getting any better. I just think now this thing is wide open. But, yeah, Duke is the most talent. I mean, look at it. You've got Paolo, who's a top 4 pick. You've got AJ Griffin, who's a lottery pick. Mark Williams is going to go in the first round, likely late first round. Wendell Moore probably ends up playing in the league. Like, they got talent. They're young, but they got talent, and they're not really freshmen anymore. But I do think this was a statement win for a team that was embarrassed a couple weeks ago on their own floor by North Carolina, and they responded, right? They didn't respond in that game, and they responded tonight.
Yeah, we've seen that a couple times from them in this tournament so far. I thought that it was really impressive. They got down by 5 with about 5 minutes left to Michigan State, gave up a big run. And again, it was Jeremy Roach, hit a couple big shots. He had that big, I think it was a step back 3 with about 90 seconds left to give him a 4-point lead. It's how difficult is that? I mean, when you're Mike, when you're coaching these guys up, I mean, when you're trying to coach confidence in some of these younger kids, you've dealt with freshmen, you've dealt with one and dones, you dealt with Cade Cunningham. Is it a difficult thing to do to kind of coach them up to learn how to execute in these moments?
I think it is. And obviously Coach K's got great experience with it at this point. You know, he resisted this mode to coach a bunch of freshmen early on. When Cal was doing it in 2010, 11, 12, Coach K wasn't really doing that. He was kind of resistant to it. And then he got it figured out himself. Like, you know, just get the best guys you can and over the course of the season. But this Duke team in particular has teased us at times. They also didn't respond in the ACC tournament against Virginia Tech, right? And so you've seen that enough to know that they're capable of not responding in that moment. But obviously they know everything's on the line now. When you lose now, it's over. And what's the weight on those kids is when they lose, Coach K's career is over. And there's no question in my mind that they hear that they feel that. And obviously they want to make sure that their talent, as collective as it is, you know, gives him the best opportunity to go out with the most memorable season that he can. Because again, there was multiple guys. AJ Griffin made some big shots for him tonight.
Yeah, let me ask you guys this. I think I would make the argument there was more pressure on them in that final game in Cameron because of all the hoopla leading up to that. Like, you had the full week of nothing but talking about Coach K's last game in Cameron. You have all of these famous Duke alums coming back. You have the whole ESPN setup there for like 48 hours. You have Jeff Goodman showing up and sitting in tents with a bunch of college kids, which is not creepy at all, Jeff. It's in the tournament, like, everyone knows when the tournament's over, like, you go into these games, your season's done. If you're a senior, your career's done. If you're a one and done freshman, your college, their time in college is done. I'm wondering, Frank, do you think I thought there was more pressure on them in that last game in Cameron than there is in a tournament setting like this? Am I just talking myself into circles here?
I don't think it. I think it was a combination of pressure and distractions. I mean, they're a real young team. They've got all these incredible players hanging out around practice. Coach K, I don't care how good a coach he is. There's no way he was as focused in as he needs to be to get his guys geeked up to play in a rivalry game with so many distractions going on. It's just, it's complicated that way. And I thought they played really well in the conference tournament. And then I watched them. And then they go up against Virginia Tech and they just laid an egg. But I thought leading into Virginia Tech, I was like, okay, they bounced back from that game. They're playing really well. So it's I thought leading into that game, I was not surprised North Carolina won because there's just too much hoopla, too many distractions. That the whole pre-games, like me as a coach, I did senior day this year after the game, because every year we do it before the game, and and that's like what they did at Duke was like senior day on super steroids. And you know, and that senior day before the game, man, there's so much emotion. And you know, guys are like, man, I ain't never doing this again. I'm not playing in this building again. And imagine that whole deal for that one game. So I agree with you, Rob. I thought the pressure and the distractions were just too much.
Frank, let me tell you a little story here, okay? It's Rob Dosser story time here. 2 days before Duke played North Carolina in that last game in Cameron, Jeff and I did a show together. And I said to Jeff, I would not be surprised to see North Carolina win that game. And
Oh,
Jeff
you hedged
said,
your bets. You said on one hand,
Jeff said
shit.
they're going to win by 42 points. He said 42 exactly. That is a quote.
I did.
I will pull out the video.
That is a quote.
I will. We'll put it out there. So I'm just.
But you were a hedger. You were a hedger.
Before we head to our first break, I just want to ask you this, Jeff, kind of big picture. Is the Coach K storyline is going to dominate the rest of this tournament? Do you think that is a good thing for college basketball, that it's going to get more attention, or is it something negative where instead of celebrating some of these other stories like Kelvin Sampson and Houston losing their top 2 scorers and get back to the Elite Eight, like Arkansas and Eric Musselman finding a way to knock off Gonzaga, like St. Peter's or Purdue or North Carolina, whoever it is, is it a good thing to have Coach K involved and Coach K making the run that he's making right now?
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I mean, I think it's terrific for the sport. It's terrific for the Final Four if he gets there. Now, again, you still have to get past Arkansas right now. Kelvin Sampson right now, man. That dude, as Mike Boynton said before we went in the air, Hall of Famer, period. What he's done this year, I know we'll get to it. But, yeah, I think it's good. But, again, we got 48 hours right now. And if Duke gets knocked out, they don't get that runway, right? That weak runway at the Final Four. But if Coach K, if they get to the Final Four, yes, it probably is going to be a little too much by the 4-letter network in terms of how they overdo the Coach K story. But let's face it, it's all about ratings, right? And Coach K is going to sell more than Kelvin Sampson if they beat Villanova, right? I mean, that's pure and simple. Now, I think the Kelvin Sampson story is more amazing. If he beats Villanova and gets to the Final Four for the second straight time, this time without his 2 top offensive players, it's a hell of a more impressive coaching job than what Coach K has done with friggin' 4 pros, even though they're young. What Kelvin Sampson will do if he beats Villanova this year might be among the greatest coaching jobs we've ever seen in the postseason.